He didn't apologize to me. He only apologized to try and gain sympathy with the judge. I just hope that he won't get out.
We can appeal sentence, and I have every expectation that that will be done.
He fired 14 bullets into the crowded food court at the Eaton Center. Tonight, Christopher Husbands has been sentenced. Husbands admitted to the 2012 shooting that left 2 people dead and injured several others. He was originally tried and convicted of second-degree murder, but that conviction was set aside. Today, a judge sentenced him to life in prison for 2 manslaughter convictions, but because he's been in custody throughout all of this, Husbands will be eligible to apply for parole in just a year. Outside the courthouse, a young victim of the shooting said the sentence leaves him scared for the people of Toronto. Mike Wise joins us live now with reaction to today's sentencing. Mike.
Well, Dwight, many of those bystanders, the victim of the Eaton Center shootings, were in court today. They weren't actually allowed to take part in this new trial. Many today saying, though, they're feeling disillusioned with the justice system for allowing this second trial, and many are already vowing to attend Christopher Husbands' parole hearings, including Connor Stevenson, who was just 13 when a stray bullet struck him in the head. He still has bullet fragments in his skull, along with a metal plate.
Crown did an amazing job. The judge, I think he gave the best sentence that he could give in this situation, but I still don't agree with the whole retrial and it getting bumped down to manslaughter. I think that's just a dangerous precedent to set. He said that he was going to get revenge in letters that he wrote. So if he gets let out, he's going to shoot somebody else, and I just hope that there's not another 13-year-old kid who's going to get shot in the crossfire.
You know, there were 2 sentences applied at the same time, 14 years for the bullet that hit Connor Stevenson. But during this trial, psychiatrists testified that Husbands suffered from PTSD after being stabbed by a group of men, including a man he shot and killed. Now, for that, the jury convicted him of manslaughter, not the original charge of second-degree murder in the first trial. Regardless, his defense lawyer is disappointed with today's sentence.
There's no question that what the jury found in terms of his culpability was enormously less than the last one. They found that he did not intend to kill anybody at the Eaton Center, and that is a huge difference. He is found guilty of manslaughter and the other allied charges instead of murder, and that's really what animated the real difference in sentence. Within the context of a manslaughter sentence, this is virtually a maximum sentence.
Now, since Husbands in custody gets credit for time spent, he actually has just 4 years left to serve. He can apply for parole after 1/3 of that, which would be 1 year and 4 months from now, March 2021. Even then, Husbands' defense lawyer says he is looking at appealing today's sentence. Dwight?
All right, we'll be hearing more about this. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Investigators have now removed the wreckage of that downed plane in Kingston. The Piper PA-32 crashed in a heavily wooded area Wednesday night after taking off from Markham's Buttonville Airport. All 7 people on board were killed, including a couple from Toronto. We'll have more on that in a moment, but first, Frédéric Pepin is in Kingston with the latest on the investigation.
The wreckage of the plane has just been removed from the crash site here in Kingston, but as you can see behind me, there's still a Kingston police vehicle here securing the scene. This is just about 200 or 300 meters from where the plane crashed on Wednesday night, just shortly after 5 p.m. So today here on site, the Transportation Safety Board, with the help of Kingston Police, but also with a local contractor, took the wreckage of the plane and put it on a trailer. Then we could see, different pieces being installed. The tail of the plane was installed, but before that were the bigger pieces, the body of the plane, the wings. We also saw what looked like a cooler that was also dumped into the trailer. Then the Transportation Safety Board installed a tarp on top of that trailer. What we know and what we've been confirmed by the TSB is that the wreckage is being brought at the Richmond Hill laboratory of the TSB for further analysis, obviously, because this investigation is ongoing. The Transportation Safety Board still hasn't released any more information about what could have caused this plane crash that has killed, as you well know, 7 people, including 3 children. We also now know that the National Transportation Safety Board, the American TSB, if you will, is now participating in this investigation and helping out the Canadian TSB. Frédéric Pepin, CBC News, Kingston.
Among the victims of the crash were a Toronto couple who were newlyweds. The 2 were planning to spend this weekend with family visiting from the U.S. Nellie Nanowski has been talking to friends and co-workers who are now mourning their loss.
When Bobo Murad Nabev didn't show up for work, his boss tried to contact him.
The whole afternoon I was texting him, no response. It's like, well, this is something weird, like out of character for him. And then this morning we found out.
Nabev and his wife Sabina Osmanova were among the 7 people killed in a plane crash.
He was very popular, very, very popular. Everyone liked him. He was never in a bad mood, even when he had projects that were not going well, as you might imagine for a computer tech.
Nabev had worked for the same company for 5 years. Last summer, he got married in Uzbekistan and struggled for months to bring his wife to Canada. She finally arrived in August.
That's actually the thing that bugs me the most, that hurts me the most, is she got here after the tribulations and all that. They got here, and now what, 6 months? Not even 6 months.
Nabev came to Toronto on a student visa. His friends say he worked hard to get permanent residency and always helped out in the community.
He always, kind of positive after exam, yeah, that's okay, you shouldn't be worried about it, whatever, go out and, soccer, yeah, let's go. And he's just friendly.
No one knew that he and his wife were planning on spending the weekend in Quebec City. He left work on Wednesday without saying a word.
The couple then came here to Buttonville Airport in Markham. They boarded a plane with Nabiev's brother-in-law, sister, and their 3 children, and then took off for Kingston.
But they never made it. His brother-in-law's 6-seater plane crashed 5 kilometers away from the Kingston airport. Now the community and Uzbekistan's ambassador to Canada is working to contact Nabev's family back home and let them know that only a year after planning a wedding, they'll now be planning funerals. Natalie Nanowski, CBC News, Toronto.
And we're learning more about the pilot in the crash. Otabek Ablakolov was from Houston. He and his wife and 3 children were killed when the plane went down. His neighbors in Texas say the family was kind and caring, talked to them about Islam, and welcomed them over for dinner often.
It's a big loss, I'm devastated about the notice, It's pretty bad, This is something you never want to hear, especially a family like this, good family.
We used to have also the gatherings in this house also, that with the family, and that's why my wife still, they just can't get over that.
Friends gathered outside the family home today in Houston in mourning. Ablakolov had just purchased the plane in January, and FAA records show he had received his pilot's license last year. At least 2 people are confirmed dead following what police are calling a terror incident on London Bridge. Bystanders subdued a knife-wielding man, and then police shot him dead. He was wearing what turned out to be a hoax explosive device. Margaret Evans has more now from London.
Fear on the streets of London again. These pictures of London Bridge captured as people ran from what police are now describing as a terrorist incident. It began mid-afternoon. The panic on the bridge sparked by what was happening here, recorded by eyewitnesses. A knife-wielding man apparently wrestled to the ground by members of the public. One man seeming to carry the knife away. Another pinning the man down, pulled away by police before they shot the suspect. London's Metropolitan Police say they were called to a stabbing incident just before 2 p.m. local time.
A male suspect was shot by specialist armed officers from the City of London Police, and I can confirm that this suspect died at the scene.
Police also say a number of other people were injured. The mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, spoke of what he called the breathtaking heroism of ordinary Londoners.
Running towards danger, risking their own personal safety to try and save others. And I want to say thank you to them on behalf of all Londoners, but also because it shows the best of us.
Memories of the 2017 terrorist attack in the very same part of London are still raw here. 8 people killed at the time. Tonight, London police are urging calm and vigilance. Margaret Evans, CBC News, London.
It'll affect our lives in the future, and if we don't stop it now, then it'll be worse for us.
Hundreds of students marched in Toronto today to fight against climate change. Coming up, we'll bring you to some of the demonstrations. Let's check in with Nick for our first look at the forecast. I know you're going to be talking about tomorrow, Nick, but there's got to be a focus on Sunday, too.
Yeah, we're going to talk about both of them tomorrow, and I hate to use this kind of cliche term, but it is the calm before the storm. And then as we head into Sunday, that is really when our next winter storm comes. So let's start with the weather headlines here. It is going to be a chilly night tonight. We do have some sunshine on the way for tomorrow, and then we get into Sunday's winter storm for the GTA. Let's talk about that storm system for a second here. It's another Colorado low, and we named them by their source regions, so that's where it forms. And this is heading into tonight. As we shift across by Saturday morning, just looking at Saturday morning and afternoon, we're looking at a bit of cloud cover coming into the GTA. Rain showers down in southwestern Ontario through the overnight, though. That's when things start to get a little bit more interesting, and not in a good way here. This pink that you see is an extensive area of freezing rain. It touches the GTA before it switches over to snowfall. Broadly speaking, this is what we're looking at by Sunday afternoon, a mix of snow, ice, and rainfall, depending on where you are. And along those boundaries, you might see both. So we're going to time that out for you coming up in just a little bit. Here's a look at tonight, -6 degrees, wind chill of -11, tomorrow -1. Again, more on that storm system coming up in just a bit.
Thanks, Nick.
You bet.
Hundreds of students took to the streets again today to demand action on climate change. This follows the global climate strike a few months ago that saw tens of thousands of young people leave class in protest. Lisa Shing has more.
At the steps of the Ontario legislature, hundreds of students came together to send a message.
No matter who you are, there is incentive to care.
It'll affect our lives in the future, and if we don't stop it now, then it'll be worse for us.
Yeah, and then so then we could stop it in the future, and then we have better lives.
Marching over to Toronto City Hall, they protested what they saw as government inaction over climate change. This is the second climate strike organized by young people. Most of them have walked out of class to make a point.
At first, my mom wasn't really with the idea, but she let me because she knows that I'm passionate about this topic, and she knows that we're making a difference here today.
Climate change is one of those issues that affects everybody, not just like marginalized groups. It affects people in power. It affects everybody, even the rich.
The first so-called climate strike was in September, inspired by climate activist Greta Thunberg. The students today are calling on all levels of government to work towards a full transition to clean energy from fossil fuels, while helping people who work in that sector find new jobs.
Keep it in the soil! All right, there we go!
Why is it important to get young people involved in a movement like this?
We're inheriting the earth when it's already ruined, and we're going to be the ones to clean it up. So we have to know about this now so that we can do something about it.
I think that there is hope, because people sometimes act like there's no hope and that everything's already lost. But I think there is.
Until they get their wish, these young activists say they'll continue to come out and march. Lisa Shing, CBC News, Toronto.
Toronto Police releasing new video today in their search for a hit-and-run driver. This is dash cam footage of the vehicle that struck and killed a 77-year-old woman. Pasquina Lapadula left her apartment building early Thursday morning. Investigators say a dark-colored SUV struck her while she was crossing Islington Avenue near Finch. They say the vehicle will have damage to its front headlight. The driver continued north on Islington after the incident. And an update to another hit and run that seriously injured two women and a 20-month-old boy in Scarborough last month. Police have arrested one of two men wanted in connection with the crash. The victims were standing on the sidewalk at Pharmacy in Ellesmere when a car ran a red light, mounted the curb, and struck the baby boy, his mother, and grandmother. Police allege Jeremiah Cook was in the passenger seat, and he abandoned the car and ran away on foot. The 40-year-old is facing numerous charges, including 2 counts of failing to stop causing bodily harm. Police are still looking for the alleged driver, 34-year-old Derek D'Souza. Anyone with information is asked to contact police. A shooting victim has sued a property owner of an alleged party organizer and an Airbnb for negligence. He was shot outside a Toronto home back in April. And as Katie Nicholson tells us, this isn't the first violent incident connected to Airbnb rentals.
Right in the back of it on this side, yeah.
The last time Sean McCann was here, he left in an ambulance. It was April, and McCann and his friends had just finished exams and saw this ad for a mansion party. Soon after arriving, he felt uneasy.
People were fighting and pushing each other around, and it just didn't seem great. There was one person I saw with a knife, and that's when we said, you know what, let's go.
He got as far as the backyard when shots were fired. McCann was hit in the back. The bullet went straight through his pelvis and exited through his groin. He woke up in hospital.
The doctor said if it had been an inch to the left, I would have been paralyzed, and an inch to the right, they said I probably would have died.
McCann is seeking $5 million in damages. None of the allegations have been proven in court. The realtor and the alleged party organizer did not respond to repeated requests from CBC News for comment. For its part, Airbnb says the senseless violence reported has no place in the Airbnb community, and we immediately removed the booking guest from our platform in April. Airbnb says the party mansion listing was taken down in September, but neighbors say even after the shooting, wild parties continued here all through the summer. There have been roughly 10 violent incidents connected to Airbnb rentals in the last year in Canada. And on Halloween in California, 5 people were fatally shot when an Airbnb house party got out of control. After that, Airbnb announced that by December 15th, it would take action to identify suspicious reservations and stop unauthorized parties before they start.
It's too little too late. Like, I survived, but a lot of people haven't, and they need to do something to make up for everything that they ignored, and it needs to stop.
Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Toronto.
I felt violated, and he had no right to do that.
Accused of secretly filming his patients, a class action lawsuit has been filed against a plastic surgeon who was at the center of a CBC News investigation. We'll bring you the details coming up.
The weather update is brought to you by Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train.
Calgary Flames head coach Bill Peters has resigned amid allegations of racial slurs and physical abuse.
This morning I received a letter of resignation from Bill Peters, which I accepted. Effective immediately, Bill Peters is no longer a member of the Calgary Flames organization.
Earlier this week, Peters apologized for using offensive language when he was a coach in the American Hockey League, but he did not make a specific reference to Akeem Alou. The Nigerian-born player said Peters used racial slurs while ridiculing the athlete's musical taste. Alou dismissed the apology as misleading, insincere, and concerning. At least 2 other players have accused Peters of being physically abusive when he was the coach of the Carolina Hurricanes. Peters was behind the bench in Carolina for 4 years, starting in 2014. The Flames launched an investigation of Peters earlier this week. We have new developments on a CBC News story that led to 2 official investigations. Our Marketplace colleagues uncovered security cameras inside a Toronto plastic surgeon's examination room where patients undress, and now some of those former patients are taking legal action. Matt Nagraba-Selassie has the latest.
Sometimes the news that pops up on your phone is shocking. It was for this woman when last year she found CBC's story about Dr. Martin Eugenberg's clinic and the security cameras in patient rooms.
I remember I was walking through my basement reading it, and then I literally fell onto the chair. And I was overcome with humiliation.
Just months before she went to the plastic surgeon's clinic for a consultation, we're protecting her identity.
There was no mention of any cameras, and the only camera I saw was the camera the nurse used to take photos, after I had disrobed.
The cameras were unexpectedly spotted during a larger hidden camera investigation into the marketing of breast implants.
I have a question. Is there a camera out there? Yes. That's for the doctor's record. Oh, okay. I don't really feel comfortable being unclothed in front of the camera.
At the time, Dr. Eugenberg said they were for security reasons. Almost a year later, he could face a class action lawsuit. JC is one of 2 plaintiffs, and the other is a woman we first interviewed in May.
I felt violated, and he had no right to do that.
You know what? I think I do see what you mean.
The team of lawyers filed the paperwork asking for $75 million with more to come.
Just shocking to hear that a doctor would do that, given their position of authority and the special relationship that a physician has with their patient.
They also allege Dr. Eugenberg posted photos and videos of patients on social media without consent. Eugenberg has previously denied this. The allegations have not been proven in court. Meanwhile, Ontario's Privacy Commissioner found the doctor broke the rules. These documents say the cameras were rolling 24/7. The footage was deleted about every 30 days. And Dr. Eugenberg had access to the live feed on his phone. The cameras have since been removed from examination rooms, but JC says it's not enough.
Even though the cameras are no longer rolling, he still has to be held accountable.
Dr. Eugenberg still faces misconduct allegations. The College of Physicians and Surgeons of Ontario has rescheduled a hearing for next year. Matt Nagraba-Selassie, CBC News, Toronto.
In my view, it's much more riskier, it's much more important thing than even your bank account number or your SIM number these days.
It's known as the SIM swap scam, and an expert says phone companies are not doing enough to fight it. We'll bring you that story coming up. Plus, coming up, we're at Fir Grove Public School for the Sharing and Caring Gala. I'm supposed to MC, but I found a little mini-me, Asia, and he's going to MC instead. So you got it down? You ready? Sharing and Caring Gala.
Sharing and Caring Gala.
Good job, buddy. Good job.
This is Sharing and CBC Toronto.
You're looking at Durham police chasing a suspected carjacker near Bowmanville. Officers on the ground backed off after things got too fast and dangerous. The suspect thought he got away until this. No, it's hard to hear, but the car flipped over. The suspect then got out and started running, trying to hide in a wooded area. Officers and the police dog eventually found him. The 33-year-old man from Coburg is now facing more than 10 charges. There he is with his hands up. A seasoned telecom expert says phone companies aren't doing enough to fight a growing type of fraud. It's known as number porting or SIM swap fraud, where a victim has their phone number stolen and transferred to a new provider. Nick Boisvert tells us why this is so dangerous and why you need to act immediately if it happens to you.
Niraj Kumar's phone buzzed last week with a surprising text.
Suddenly I received a message from my service provider saying that your number has been requested to be ported to another provider.
As a telecoms consultant with 20 years experience, he knew instantly what was at stake.
A lot of damage could be done. It's probably much more severe than just losing your credit card.
With his number suddenly out of his control, Kumar immediately called his service provider, but he didn't find much help.
I explained the situation to them. They said they don't have any clue about it at this point in time. And it will take about 48 hours for them to kind of investigate and come back and bring my number back, essentially.
The CRTC set the rules for number porting more than 10 years ago. The thinking was it would allow customers to switch providers while keeping their number. But in the age of two-step verification, a phone number is something like a digital master key. It can unlock emails, social media, bank accounts, and credit cards. The OPP says those breaches are happening more often these days. To prevent them, Kumar says victims need to act quickly. His advice, immediately call your service provider, ask where the number was ported, call that provider, and have them immediately suspend the number. What do you imagine it's like for people who don't have your expertise when this kind of thing happens to them?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and I would say not everybody is really aware of what's happening.
The industry group representing wireless carriers says specific security measures are up to each company and that they are constantly working to ensure these processes can be as efficient and effective as possible for their customers. Kumar says that didn't happen in his case.
I spent like 3 to 4 hours getting through all those hold times while calling the regular customer care line. There should really be a fraud hotline.
That service isn't available at any of the big three wireless carriers. Nick Boisvert, CBC News, Toronto.
The city has purchased the property where a controversial Etobicoke concrete plant is operating, and the plan now is to move the business. The ML Ready Mix plant on Judson Street in Mimico has been a source of concern for area residents for over a decade. They say the heavy truck traffic around the plant creates safety risks along with noise and a lot of mess. Yesterday, the city announced it finalized the deal to purchase the property. Council voted last year to use $5 million to buy the property. The plant will be moved to the Portlands. ML Ready Mix now has up to 1 year to move its operations. A retired TTC worker has taken the rare step of launching a private prosecution case against the TTC and its CEO over claims of adverse health effects from poor air quality conditions in subway tunnels.
Mr. Donnelly has health issues that relate to his breathing. Anytime somebody with health issues relating to breathing is exposed to these types of protocols, it can cause a health effect.
The charges were initiated by Thomas Donnelly. He and his lawyer are accusing the TTC of violating the Environmental Protection Act by allowing the discharge of contaminants into the subway system. According to a Health Canada air quality study conducted between 2010 and 2013, Toronto's subway system did have elevated levels of PM 2.5, small particles that are easily inhaled and can cause lung tissue damage. But since then, the TTC has made upgrades to its filtration system. Today, a spokesperson said the TTC will vigorously defend both the organization and the CEO against this private action. Meanwhile, TTC also dealing with a different problem. They still don't know what caused the damage to a number of streetcars on Queen this week. The Transit Commission was running out of service streetcars along this section of track today as it continues to search for the source. Now, on Wednesday, it pulled all streetcars off Queen after more than 24 vehicles suffered damage to their supplementary braking systems. While the TTC says it's getting closer to determining if the line is safe for vehicles to return, it's still planning to keep shuttle buses running on the route until Monday. Increasing ridership is forcing more Whitby GO Transit commuters to leave their vehicles in an overflow lot at a nearby sports center. But not all of the spaces there are designated for GO riders, something that's catching a lot of drivers by surprise. Khalil Ewan explains.
This was a first for Mangesh Pakarkar, a $27 parking ticket.
It was like kind of clueless why I got it.
Pakarkar works in downtown Toronto and has been commuting from Whitby GO station to Union for over half a year.
The lot near to the GO station, it's always full.
So he parks here in the overflow lot at the Iroquois Park Sports Center across the street. The north section of the lot is off limits to GO users, but commuters are directed into the south section. This is the sign pointing them to go that way.
For me, like I saw GO parking arrow, I went inside, I parked.
But what Pakarkar didn't realize is not all the spots are for GO users. He's not the only one. CBC counted at least 12 cars with parking tickets.
No, there is no sign.
There is, but it's small. It's supposed to indicate to commuters they aren't allowed to park on the entire west portion of the lot. Ron Biswas and his son Sean also missed the sign.
I parked there once. He didn't ticket me, but he said, he gave me a warning.
The town of Whitby started handing out parking tickets last week after getting complaints from those who frequent Iroquois Park. It says staff have been out in the parking lot educating GO users and that more signage will be up soon. GO users say they also hope there will be more spaces to meet demand in the near future.
Frustrates me a little bit. Already from this parking spot, I need to walk for 6 minutes. It is approximately, I think, 700 to 800 meters from here. And still I'm not getting parking.
According to numbers from Metrolinx, average weekday ridership on the Lakeshore East line went up by 10.7% between September 2018 and September 2019.
A little over a year ago, we actually increased service, so it went from 2 trains an hour to now 4.
Nitish Basono from Metrolinx says it is aware of the parking challenges.
We are planning long-term solutions for Whitby, so we're in the early phases of our planning.
In the meantime, Pakarkar says he has resorted to arriving at the station earlier to secure a spot.
There is no option.
He also says he plans to fight the ticket, arguing lack of proper signage. Kelda Yoon, CBC News, Whitby.
Parking lots were full at malls across the GTA today, and it was an early morning for dedicated shoppers trying to get the best deals for Black Friday.
What time did you get up this morning to come here?
4.
5. Actually, no, 4:30.
I got up at 5 o'clock.
About 5:30.
We got up probably around 3 and then got here between 5 and 5:30.
I didn't go to bed. I've been up all night.
I was the first in line and the first to purchase.
So what did you buy today?
I bought a 50-inch flat screen TV.
You can watch CBC News Toronto on that. It's one of the busiest days of the year for retailers. Lineup started early this morning as malls extended their opening hours. Many went home with some new goodies.
I'm Talia Ricci, and coming up, this clearly isn't your average bus. We meet a transit professional who's giving buses a second life while also helping people experiencing homelessness. We'll show you around. Stay with us.
Nick's been talking about Sunday for a couple of days now, and we're hoping the models would show maybe it's going away from us, Nick, but no such luck.
Yeah, unfortunately, either way we slice it, we're either going to get ice pellets and freezing rain or snowfall or a mix of both. We're actually sitting right on the line, and so I'm going to get right into the storm system because regardless of where you are around the Golden Horseshoe or surrounding areas, it will be a messy winter storm. Right now, just some cloud cover over the GTA, a few flurries to the north, but this is what we're watching heading into the next couple of days. For tomorrow evening, rain showers start in southwestern Ontario along that Colorado low that I had mentioned. Through the overnight, it pushes eastward. That area of pink there, that's ice pellets and freezing rain touching the GTA about 6, 7 a.m. In the morning on Sunday, and then transitioning over to snow with still mixed precipitation to the southwest. Rain continues down further southwest, and then snowfall changes to mixed precipitation again by the afternoon. So it is a messy one. Now, we'll talk about the ice accretion first, because this is likely the most dangerous of the winter weather conditions that we're looking at. Areas along the 401 from London through Kitchener, and then further down toward the Niagara region, that's where we're expecting to see the bulk of the freezing rain. Ice accumulations here could be on the order of a centimeter in some areas. With regard to the snowfall, that's going to fall a little bit further to the east. Now, just earlier, this model was showing 12 centimeters of snow for the GTA, so it is very variable, and it will depend on the temperatures as well. We in Toronto and areas from, say, about Toronto down through Oakville, sitting right on that transition region. But the best estimates for this right now with the forecast models looks like this. About 6 a.m. ice pellets and freezing rain in the GTA. About 9 a.m. transition to wet snow. Then in the afternoon, a bit of a mix. And then 5 p.m. more in the way of light snow and blowing snow. All the while, winds gusting to about 70 kilometers per hour. So for tonight, now it's not going to look so bad. Tonight, it's cold, -6 degrees, wind chill of -11, but pretty calm. Same story for tomorrow as well, -1 degree and a mix of sun and cloud. And then, of course, we get into Sunday's storm system. Here's a look at your 5-day forecast then. Tomorrow, pretty decent. Sunday, sitting right on the zero mark. And that is why it's going to be very variable in terms of where you are and what you see with regard to the precipitation. A few tapering flurries on Monday. Not a bad week setting up for next week. Dwight.
Well, we better get prepared for it. Thank you, Nick.
You bet.
He was an entertainer turned Toronto barber at a popular spot in Little Jamaica. A community patriarch, Ronald Wisdom, passed away yesterday. Also known as Jimmy Wisdom, was an R&B singer from Jamaica when he migrated to Canada. He later opened a barber shop on Eglinton Avenue West, a popular spot. The shop has become somewhat of a staple in the community over the past 4 decades. He will be missed. I think I even had my hair cut there. Stay with us. We are 1 week away from our Sounds of the Season food drive, and a Toronto transit professional is also doing his part to combat homelessness and food insecurity by giving old buses new lives. He created a shelter bus. The converted bus offers people a place to sleep and eat. Talia Ricci gives us a look inside.
So tell me about the lives this bus had before it was a shelter bus.
Yeah, so it started off in Quebec City as an intercity coach. Then it was bought by a private coach operator who ran it for a few years. And now we've got it and we're putting it to use on the streets of Toronto.
And should we go inside and see what it looks like in there? Wow, this is really nice.
So this is dinette mode. You can see they can have a meal here, have a conversation. I call this bus shelter bus. It's actually what it is actually a repurposed bus for homeless people in Toronto during the cold months to provide them somewhere warm that they can come on board and get some light refreshments and a meal, as well as sleep during the cold nights in Toronto.
What gave you the idea to, retrofit a bus to be able to do this?
As part of my work, I always retire buses, and they're sold for scrap metal, basically around $2,000, and we buy them for $500,000 brand new. So I thought, is there a better social use for these buses?
And you said it can seat 44 people?
Yes, 44 people.
And sleep?
20.
20.
So what we can do is we can actually convert one of these into a bed. What people have told me they like about the bus is it's mobile, it goes in at nighttime and it leaves in the morning, so it doesn't have a permanent spot in a community. And we have a serious seasonal demand in Toronto where there isn't enough centers to keep people warm during the winter months. As a transit professional, I take great pride in knowing that the bus is out there with a social cause, but it's also very well presented to the community.
Over the last year, the bus has been going out on the weekends, but starting December, it'll be going out every night. And a second bus is in the works too. Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
Shelter Bus relies on Humanity First Food Bank to help feed people in the community. Now, you can do your part this holiday season to support food banks across the GTA. Donate to CBC Toronto's Sounds of the Season fundraiser with Daily Bread Food Bank. And 1 week from today on Friday, December 6th, we're having an open house here at CBC Toronto. There will be live performances, musical guests, and events at the Broadcast Centre. So come on down and, of course, bring a donation. The Native Canadian Centre of Toronto is planning on some big crowds this weekend for their artisan marketplace. From paintings to beadwork and jewelry, the centre is hosting 50 vendors selling Indigenous arts and crafts. Here's a look at what you'll be able to get your hands on.
This is our third year running the Indigenous Artisan Marketplace on the last weekend of November. We have over 45 traditional Canadian Indigenous vendors here displaying art of all different types and sorts.
So you see how each strawberry is different?
Our beadwork always tells our stories, and it's one of the ways that we can talk about who we are as individuals, the communities that we come from. So some of my pieces have symbols that not only are Indigenous, but that also relate to my childhood. Like I can remember going out into the bush and seeing the trilliums and things like that.
A lot of wonderful talent and stunning artwork.
I found some beautiful earrings that I came looking for gifts for family and friends, and I got some earrings for myself. The beadwork was so beautiful on a pair of earrings that I got.
I made these red dresses, and they signify missing and murdered Indigenous women. It's just important so we can represent and remember our family members, our missing friends, things like that.
This is a tamarack twig goose decoy. It's made by the Cree hunters up in James Bay, and it smells really nice, and they put them in the snow to attract the geese. Now this opening they leave in the eye to mimic the white eye patch of the Canada goose.
So here's a line of different hot sauces that I make. From hot, getting hotter, down to hottest. I source my peppers locally. I've got a farmer out of the Innisfil area that grows peppers for me. And they're just my own creations where I've taken different flavors that I like and spiced them up.
This is great.
Well, it becomes an annual event where I
get to come and really, it's a reunion, seeing your friends that really are bringing their craftsmanship, artistry, the culinary art to downtown Toronto is fantastic.
The family had gathered to celebrate your father's 85th birthday. How was it?
The party? Pre my dad's death? Oh, it was great.
It's the new Whodunit film with an all-star cast. Eli Glasner gives us his review of Knives Out coming up.
I suspect foul play. And I have eliminated no suspects.
Who done it? Was it Jamie Lee Curtis, Don Johnson, Toni Collette? No, this is not your ordinary murder mystery. Knives Out hits theaters today, and the film boasts an all-star cast of suspects and an eager crime solver trying to crack the case, played by none other than James Bond himself, Daniel Craig. Eli is here to give us a clue or two about this film. Set the scene for us, Eli. Let's start there on both sides of the camera.
Okay, so behind the camera, Rian Johnson, he's done Looper, he did Last Jedi, he did one of my favorite films of all time, another murder mystery called Brick. And I think, you know, he had a bit of a rough ride with The Last Jedi, some fans getting a little uptight about what he was doing with their favorite action figures. So I think the feel for this film is just let's have fun, get these actors together in a house. I would describe this film as Clue on crack. It is really kind of out there, but a lot of fun. And it all starts with Christopher Plummer as Harlan Thrombey. Now, this is a best-selling author of actually mystery novels, but as great as he is, and there he is, oh no, he is found dead in his parlor just after they celebrated his 85th birthday. Now, who would want to kill this old, sweet man? Well, it happens to be a house filled with relatives, and each of them have their own motive. I mean, Michael Shannon was the son who was running the publishing business, had his own plans for the business. Toni Collette as the flaky daughter-in-law. She's an influencer who seems to have, there she was, a little more debt than clout, if you know what I mean. Now, you saw Jamie Lee Curtis. She's Linda, a self-made woman. She stands on her own, doesn't need her dad's money. Don Johnson is actually her arm candy. He's basically the trophy husband who's there just along for the ride. So the interviews begin. We got Lakeith Stanfield as a lieutenant investigating, but you saw him there. Daniel Craig as the private detective Benoit Blanc. Now, the only thing better than that name is this bourbon-soaked accent. Take a look.
I'm here at the behest of a client.
Who?
I cannot say, but let me assure you this. My presence will be ornamental. You will find me a respectful, quiet, passive observer of the truth.
It's like a mouth filled with molasses. There's no consonants. It's just dripping out. Ornamental. Ornamental. Okay, so he's there as the observer of truth, but there's a character that comes a little late to the party. He missed the memorial, but he's early for the will reading. Now, that's interesting, and this character is named Ransom. He's the grandson, and he's played by Captain America, Chris Evans. Takes a look.
Excuse me. Sir? We're officers of the law.
You gonna run me in? I don't feel like talking. I'm distraught.
Hey, Benny, you want to ask this guy some questions?
All right, what is this? What's this arrangement?
Mr. Drysdale.
CSI KFC?
Not a lot of time for that detective there and the police enjoying that moment. And it's just delicious to see kind of the evil Steve Rogers there.
I love the accent, and I like you call it bourbon soaked, and he called it CSI KFC Southern Fried. I love it. Okay, great cast. Sounds like an amusing script. But anything about that makes this murder mystery more than just about that murder?
So what has been fascinating to me this year, as award season gets closer, again and again we have movies about class, and there's one more character that makes this critical. Marta, the nurse from Ecuador. There she is. She's the one that's been closest to Harlan, and this movie is also about kind of the lines that separate us and this family that is very much us versus them. You know, they talk a good game, they like to be progressive, but when the inheritance comes out, well, Marta better watch her back, and that's when this really becomes interesting, as you're kind of hoping that she can stay out of the path of some of those knives, and how the detective, there he is going to finally solve this deliciously delectable puzzle. Great piece of entertainment, 4.5 stars out of 5.
It is that good.
Oh, it is that good and more.
Thank you, Eli.
You're welcome.
A day after Raptor Pascal Siakam visited Fir Grove Public School last December, there was a shooting outside their building. Students and staff at the Jane Finch Elementary School are determined not to let some of the negativity in their community define them. And today's Spin Master and the Toronto Children's Breakfast Club brought their Christmas Caring and Sharing Gala to Fir Grove, and CBC Toronto was there.
What do you guys think about the fact that you get a gift for yourself and you get a gift to give to a friend?
Good.
Yeah? How about you?
I like it. I want to share it.
You want to share?
So exciting.
Good answers. It's like I didn't even prompt you guys. You had your answers ready. High fives all around.
At our school, we're doing caring and sharing, and it's so good that everyone gets to be together. It's a Christmas gala.
And what happens?
It's all about sharing and caring and giving stuff to other people.
And you smile like giving away stuff is good.
Yeah, it's about the Christmas spirit.
Did you guys practice those answers?
No.
We hear a lot of the negative things that happen in this community. They make it on the news. Why is it important to be here for something as positive as the Caring and Sharing Gala?
You know what? Yeah, there's a lot of negative stereotypes and perceptions about Jane and Finch, right? But, I mean, events like today, Caring and Sharing, you will see a lot of positive stories, right? You need to come to Jane and Finch to really figure out what the community is all about.
Fir Grove is a great school. I have a nice principal, teacher, classmates, students, and friends.
And I hear you guys are doing really well academically.
Yes.
Is that because of you? Are you the smarty pants?
No, all of us are smarty pants.
You have the best answer of the day.
That's also my old school. That's it for our show tonight. Thank you for joining us. Mike Wise got you covered at 11.